Hey, Dawn and Janine here again. Today we're talking about something I hear about often, that it is really hard at the end of a long day to shut it off, to really close the brain down, be able to move on to something else or to go to sleep. And so I would love to talk with you, Janine, about what do you find? Is this a difficult thing for you? And what do you do if you do find it that way?
Oh my gosh, if only you knew how much of an effort this takes for me. I know for the longest time I just didn't know how to shut it off. And I do not have what you would call a quiet mind. I mean, I'm not a quiet person. My mind's bound to be the same. And so literally I was thinking on overdrive all the time. When I was with my kids, I was thinking about work. When I was at work, I was thinking about kids and other things at work. And so I was multitasking, but multitasking all the time to the point of my peril, where it was actually slowing me down and giving me anxiety. It wasn't good for my health. I'm pretty sure that's why we were getting like a million colds a year. It wasn't helping with that. And so now it's become a point of being very intentional about it because I realized I was never having peace of mind. I think at that point, I actually didn't realize that peace of mind was achievable. I thought that like this is just the way it is. Were you the active minded person? Were you like the overthinker as well? Or
Always, always. I think from very young, I had a hard time shutting my mind down at night, or if something happened that was annoying or aggravating, or it was something that I was mulling over, it would just go and spiral. And so then again, really hard to turn off or to move on to something else. And so that carried through into my business when the day was over, replaying how things went, how conversations happened, what I did right, what I did wrong, right? And carrying that all through them, what has to happen tomorrow and all the things that are waiting for me. And then, again, not really feeling present sometimes at the end of the day with my family because my brain is still either in the day or in tomorrow. And so that, yeah, for sure, for me, that's been an issue.
I know there was always that feeling of like, okay, I have to do more, I have to do more. And that's what that feeling was, that feeling of lack, like there's never enough time. And that's why the brain was going over and over and overdrive for me. And even when I did like heaps of stuff, I would just never have that feeling of satisfaction because I never had an end point. There was
Right.
no end point to my day or to the end of the goal because I'd like, hey, next, 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 next. What do you do now to kind of turn it off at night? Do you have something?
Yeah. So if anybody follows me, they know I am a huge routine person. I have a morning routine, I have a evening routine. I actually have like throughout the day little mini routines because for me, I know when my brain knows what's coming, it tends to be like, ah, okay, hands off. This is how this works. So I've learned that over the years as a tool that works for me. And I've also learned as somebody who's running a business that even if I do everything that was on my plan for today, and even if I got ahead and did more of what's there tomorrow, guess what? There's just more stuff after that. Like, there's never an end. So there's no point in feeling like I have to do more because there's just more. So I think once I started to realize, okay, I actually can put an end point on the day, then that made it a lot better because it doesn't matter how much I do, it's still gonna be there tomorrow. And then setting a routine. So throughout my day, I actually have mini breaks where I take breathing breaks. For me, breath is the biggest way to get myself here present, first of all, to calm my mind down, to get off of spirals that I'm following that I don't need to be. And it's also the quickest way to be like present in whatever else I need to go on and do. So those help breaking up my day, first of all. But then when my day is over, I literally close, like, my desk here, everything gets closed. It like, the laptop gets closed, my agenda gets closed, so it's kind of my start, like, my I'm now booting down, like, everything is closing, and I go from there to, again, sitting for a few minutes, thinking through what is on tomorrow's agenda, and then I sit and breathe, and so I usually spend 2 to 3 minutes just sitting in my office breathing before I actually get up out of my seat, and then I have, of course, my whole nighttime routine before bed because, again, I don't wanna go there, but as long as everything's written down for me and it's dumped out of my head and I have some time to breathe, those are my biggest things that I use. What about you?
It's interesting because, I mean, we talk all the time, but I don't think we've actually talked about turning it off at the end of the day
Nope.
before. Um, but our routines are actually fairly similar. And I kind of think of it more of a ritual. It's that ritual of closing it down and moving on. And so, what happens for me about half an hour before the end of my day, before like the kids come home and everything, what I was doing is I'd work right to the end of that time and then I would just go into mom mode. And I found I was like dragged out and tired and worn out. And so my kids weren't getting the best me, and I was putting it all into my business. And then I'd be tired from that. And so it's actually very similar to yours. I'll make sure there's a half an hour buffer. And in that time, I'll ask, is there anything else that needs done that is, if it isn't done tonight, it's going to drive me crazy? Because there are just certain projects that are like, that has a timeline on it, or like, oh, if I don't send that email, that's going to bother me tonight and my mind's going to be in the office. So I ask that if there is, I quickly do that, or I address it and put it to rest. Be like, does that really actually need done today? It's
Right.
just pressing the thought and giving it the attention. And then, like you, I take the breath and I find it just gets you grounded and right in present, and it slows down time. Like, it just has that magical effect of slowing down time, getting you right where you are. And then I just take a little bit of time for myself, whether it's sometimes it's laying on the floor. Sometimes it's playing a game on my phone. Sometimes it's usually ends up being 5 minutes. And then computer shuts off and door closes. And when I close the door, it is as if I'm working out of the house and I've closed shop for the night. It's very similar actually with what you have, which kind of makes me laugh. But I would love to know from everyone watching, because ours happens to be similar, but it's not always what works for everybody. So I would love to know in the comments in the Facebook group, what is your routine? What do you do to shut it off? I would love to know. And I'm sure somebody else reading your comments, it can really help and inspire them as well. We will talk to you guys tomorrow.